Pinterest wants you to be able to buy everything that you see. Android Wear is growing up, Uber karaoke, and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and once again, time for Twit's audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, really. That's all. Just go to twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. Your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. And thanks for your continued support.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1701, recorded Wednesday, February 8th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Blue Apron, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/TNT.
And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to receive a free Tracker Bravo with any purchase.
And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. When it comes to the big decision of choosing a mortgage lender, work with one that has your best interest in mind. Use Rocket Mortgage for a transparent, trustworthy home loan process that's completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about technology, and we say it with a smile. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. You want to know why I'm smiling?
Why?
Because I'm home, sweet home, with my Pixel phone. Mm-hmm. How's it feel? How's it feel to be back?
It feels fantastic. There are things that I miss, and my brain hasn't quite caught up. I keep trying to. The Pixel has the fingerprint reader on the back, and I will tell you, it is better to have a fingerprint reader on the back. I'm just going to tell you. And I said that on Twitter. And someone said, "What about when it's on the table?" I don't really do that much. I mean, is that easier than?
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean. But there are occasionally times where I'm like, yeah, if it's on the back, I have to pick it up and blah blah blah. But overall, I like it. I like it better on the back than on the front. It's the kind of thing that if you've never had it and used it for a decent amount of time, it seems like it would be weird because it's on the back. Why would you do that? It's always been on the front. But when you use it in regular everyday scenarios, this is just how you hold your phone anyway. So it's just like boop, and that unlocks your phone.
It is. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You tweeted a picture of your desktop all perfectly set up. Everything in the little round bubble folders, way cleaner than your actual desk, I can attest to.
Yeah, it's true.
Did that just all come back, or did you rearrange it?
It came back from my last backup. And yeah, it was when I was setting it up, it had my last, 30 days ago, it had that backup saved in the cloud. I selected it, went through, and probably 15 minutes later, all of my apps were in the same. I mean, right when you go through, everything's where it is. It's just if the app isn't installed yet again, it's like a ghost icon or whatever. It's there, but it's faded out. And then as they download, they get their color back. The color starts rushing back to their faces.
Back to the future.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I like to start anew. I always start fresh. I do not back up from backup because I have so much garbage apps on here, from the downloading things, and so it's just nice to. It's like the Marie Kondo, if you have heard of her. If you haven't, you should watch the Simpsons episode because they lambast her very well. She's the one that the Japanese art of tidying. If something doesn't bring you joy, then you get rid of it. So that's what I see.
Theory.
That's what the way. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. I look at every app and I think about it. I think, does Snapchat bring me joy? Oh, yes, it does. Does Facebook Messenger bring me joy? Yep. Does Allo bring me joy? Yes, it does.
Does Twitter bring you joy?
Yes, Twitter brings me joy. It also brings me pain.
Yeah,
but I am going to miss
that's a hard one.
The daydream.
Oh, you can borrow it any time. It's probably going to be sitting on my desk.
Okay.
Here at work.
I will.
So. All right, cool. Let's talk about tech news that has nothing to do with our phones. Pinterest, well, maybe if you have this app installed, Pinterest is launching a new feature called Lens inside the app. It's a way to use machine vision to recognize real-world objects and then surface images within the service that match that particular image search. So kind of like Shazam for the real world, objects, let's say. You could search a clock and then see how that clock looks on the wall inside pictures that are hosted on the platform, for example. Pinterest also introduced Shop the Look, and that utilizes both machine learning as well as some human curation to match items visually and then offer links to places that are selling those items. So you see a picture, it's got a pair of shoes that you like, you take that and you run it through this, and it will actually show you that, oh, those shoes are actually for sale at Nordstrom. Here's a direct link to it, and you can pick it up. So kind of way to supercharge your shopping using Pinterest.
It's a way to just look at anything and be able to buy it, because who doesn't want to be able to buy every single thing they see in the world? That's what we were put on this planet.
That, and that. I want it all.
Just to have the technology to buy more things.
You could, for just as a random example, you could point your camera at an All About Android t-shirt, twit.tv/store, and you could do a search. And then on Pinterest, it might actually link you back to twit.tv/store.
So this was supposed to be rolling out today. I have not gotten it on iOS and Android, but I did find an app called Cam Find that seems to do the same thing. I mean, I guess it probably has fewer deals. But yeah, you just take a picture. Like I could, take a picture of you, and maybe it would
see if I'm for sale at Nordstrom.
Are you for sale? It says preparing to send, sending,
although this
identifying. I wish you could see this.
Maybe it would match this shirt to probably Banana Republic. I'm guessing.
Oh well, we'll have to. It says men's gray.
Yes.
Crew,
okay, that's true.
Neck.
Yep, I've got a neck
sweater. Black.
Not a sweater, but okay. It's
and
a waffle.
Crew neck sweater, eBay, men's shop style. Oh, shop style. So, yeah, you can...
is it a Banana Republic?
I don't know if you can see that, but there is all those gray. Yeah, you could buy Jason.
Yeah, the checkered one looks just like it.
Right there, yeah. So you can do this already, but, and you could do it with Google Goggles. We all remember Google Goggles.
Oh yeah, who hasn't used Google Goggles? I mean, that was a while ago.
But it didn't. It was funny. It was one of those moments where it wouldn't always work, and so it'd be funny.
But it was a really cool kind of proof of concept. When I think of Google Goggles, that's how I think of it. It was a cool proof of concept around the power of Google and search, that you could then also search images and everything. This just kind of makes it. Kind of ties it up. It gives it a little bit more purpose, I would say. Houses, or however you say that, house. I've always said house, and then people correct me and they say it's houses because there's two Z's.
I like it's like his house.
His house. They've had this for a while now, where when you're looking at images that people have taken of their homes or whatever, there might be a little dollar, like a price tag icon hanging from different items in the house, and they've actually linked those through to the actual products, and it's super helpful because you use these services for ideas. Pinterest is big on that. Everybody uses Pinterest to kind of have ideas on how to do things or things to buy or how things look, and then to kind of monetize that. That's a big opportunity for Pinterest. So I think this is a perfect kind of match for this type of technology.
Yeah, I can never make the stuff that's in Pinterest, and it only just makes me feel horrible about myself.
Yeah, I know.
But I can I can imagine just, being able, oh, I like that living room. I'm going to buy that couch.
I'm going to buy that living room.
Yeah, I'm going to, yes. So.
Yeah.
It's official. Android Wear 2.0 is here. Just one day too late for me. But if LG wants to send me a watch to use with my iPhone, I'm not going to stop you. The newest version of the Android wearable OS includes the ability to make payments. Whoa. It's simpler to navigate, which in my opinion, anything they could do would make it simpler to navigate.
Yeah.
Navigation was garbage. Nothing made sense to me on either of the Android Wear watches that I used. Finally, there will be the elusive ability to use apps without your phone. That's exciting. There's also an aerobics choice on Google Fit. I know we've discussed again and again how you don't track your fitness with your wearable, but there's that was definitely missing. It was, if I wanted to do a workout in Google Fit, it would offer me running, biking, elliptical, and I want just something like the other option on the Apple Watch to just track everything else, just to sort of track my heart rate, not use GPS or anything like that. So apparently aerobics will be a new option.
Ron Amadio, actually, Ars Technica, did a review of the LG Watch Sport, which is the larger of the two. And he said Google Fit on this is actually really awesome. It was able to track things like push-ups, curls, bench presses, without him entering anything. It recognized based on his movement that he was doing a bench press or whatever, and then when he was done, he just had to cycle through and enter the amount of weight. and it knew that he did 10 reps of a bench press, but how heavy was it? He put that in, and it tracked it for him. And I don't know that I've heard of watches doing that yet. That seems pretty new in the fitness tracking.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, and I like it. Because I did do, I tried that. That's the other thing you can do with Fit. You can give yourself a sit-up challenge or a plank challenge, or and I did that. But yeah, you have to tell it. You have to say, I'm going to do sit-ups, and I tried it with like doing other things besides sit-ups to see, and it still told me that I did 20 sit-ups when I really wasn't. When I was really just checking Twitter.
Yeah, right. 1, 2, 3. That was me checking my Twitter feed.
Well, if you review this, I want to try it for a little bit.
Okay. So things that stood out for me: Wear 2.0 just as an OS. Complications. So, and Apple Watch has had that, I think, since launch, which are basically ways to kind of customize the watch face with different programmable elements like battery or I don't know, whether, other options that are tappable and interactive.
Well, but what this has also is third-party complications, which the Apple Watch just got too. So like if you want to have Uber or Lyft.
Pull in from another app.
That was a new, so that's what they're doing too, which is a big deal because, I mean, it seemed like were there no complications on Android Wear before?
Not really. No, I mean, there were I would say complications light. There wasn't like an official third-party method of bringing in random pieces from one app into the other.
Yeah.
You might have like something like maybe a weather icon because Google made that watch face or whatever, but there was nothing that robust. Assistant functionality. Ron Audio says you can basically look the other way. It hardly works the way you expect it to. It's super slow and half the time doesn't work. So that's a big bummer. QWERTY keyboard. Florence Ion reviewed the LG Watch Style, which is the smaller of the two. She says it's the most stylish Wear watch that she's ever reviewed. However, it lacks so many essential features like NFC for Android Pay and others. I mean, it's the lower cost one. It's $249. That it's really in some ways it's hard to recommend because it just doesn't have all the features that you would want it to have.
Plus it's round, which
I know that's an instant turn off for you. You don't like the round watches,
it's
right?
Wrong.
Well, there you go.
Smartwatch.
But the larger one, LG Watch Sport, I don't know. Lots of red flags with these, and I'm very curious to play around with them. But Ron Audio had said the Snapdragon Wear 2100 system on a chip, that's Qualcomm's system on a chip created just for Android Wear, is so out of date that everything is super slow and unresponsive, which is just, I mean, that's unacceptable, right? Like if you're releasing a watch to be kind of the example of your new OS, as Google is working directly with LG in this partnership, and this is kind of a way to show it off, like that's one big way to get people to not care about it, is to release it with a system on a chip that's going to make everything seem slow. And that seemed to be a big theme between the reviews that I read, is that it's just not as snappy and as fluid as you would hope that it would be.
Now that you've used the Apple Watch, you're spoiled.
Well, I would agree. I am spoiled. I really liked the Apple Watch. This does have a crown, and it has a crown that navigates through the UI in a similar way that the Apple Watch does. I'm curious about that. And the bigger one is on sale this Friday, $349.
And so do you think this is going to jump mark the wearable market? Because everybody but me seems to be thinking that that no one really wants wearables. It's not, it's...
Honestly, I don't have a good feeling that this is going to be like some big sea change for wearables on Android Wear. I mean, even the reviewers, they're like marginally excited about it. They're excited that there's something new, but curious why it took Google this long to come out with an update, and that there are just big glaring red flags about these devices in particular. So I don't know. It just kind of seems like they're drifting right now.
Yeah. Well, you did skip right over that little QWERTY keyboard, which is also that's something the Apple Watch doesn't have. And I did read a review. I can't remember if it was The Verge or where. That said it was surprisingly easy to use, the little keyboard to respond to messages.
Because you don't always want to talk to your watch.
Yeah, and with the Apple Watch, and I missed this. You could, you can draw words, like you can write words. So it reminded me of when I used to use a Palm.
Right. Right.
But you actually could use real handwriting. So it looks like you can use handwriting too.
Yep. So I'll probably get one of these and test it out, and I'll let you play with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the biggest hurdles for virtual reality is proving to consumers that they have to have it. So you put the technology where consumers are and let them try it for themselves. Best Buy has apparently housed around 500 Oculus Rift demo stations across its U.S. stores. But even that hasn't been enough, as Facebook is now closing around 200 of those stations. They say due to poor store performance, things have slowed down. In many cases, those pop-ups would go days without interest in a single demonstration, according to people who are working these stations. And I mean, I'm sure there's Oculus is saying, well, we came out of the holidays and everything's really slow. So, we have to kind of shift our strategy a little bit and pare it back. We don't need all of those stations. And I'm sure there's some truth to that, but it really makes me wonder, with VR, because no one's had much experience with VR and there's such a high kind of, cost to get in, you have to really convince people that the experience is awesome and get them excited to test it out for themselves. And I don't know, is this one example of that excitement not matching the expectation?
I would say so. This doesn't really surprise me very much. I don't know. It seems to me like it would be cool to go try it, but I've tried it here and it didn't get close to making me want to spend that much money.
Right.
And I know I'm not the market, but I think if they want to sell these, in mass, it's got to be cheaper or better. And I do think that augmented reality is more interesting to people, probably more useful. So I think Oculus was a lot more exciting before it came out.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I don't think our anticipation matched, with so many things, I don't think our anticipation matched the delivery of the product.
It's really hard to get over that sticker shock, the price of it, the shock of the sticker price, and to get really excited about that. As you know, I've been pretty excited about all the VR stuff, and I played around with it a decent amount in the past year and everything. As excited as I am, I still haven't been so excited that I'm willing to go through the process of speccing out a PC or buying a PC, the initial investment there, and then buying the VR hardware and matching it all up and everything. I would love to have one, and I hope and intend to have one someday, but where it's at right now is still too kind of broken for me, broken up into pieces and sort of expensive in all regards, so that I'm waiting. And I imagine this probably means a lot of other people too are waiting. Maybe PSVR ends up being the good way to kind of introduce more people to it more broadly, because lots of people have PS4s already, but that remains to be seen.
What was the drawing app that was? I think it was on the Vive. I'm not sure if it was also on Oculus.
Why am I suddenly blanking? Yeah, why am I blanking on the name? It's the 3D drawing
that
app thing. Yes. What's that? Yeah, why am I'm totally blanking? But yes, that one.
Okay, so that thing was amazing. And I really enjoyed playing with it. But I also really enjoyed playing with the space app, the Star... Tilt Brush, yes. Tilt Brush was amazing, and I enjoyed it. And I also enjoyed StarCraft VR on the Daydream. That was a $5 app, and Daydream is way cheaper than the Oculus or the Vive.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't Tilt Brush. Keep showing that picture. It wasn't Tilt Brush, but the difference in price between the two, it didn't match the difference in quality between the two. There's just too much of a gap there, I think.
Yeah. I'm way less interested and excited about Daydream and Gear VR than I am about owning an Oculus. But am I excited enough, or an HTC Vive? Am I excited enough to drop the cash and go through that whole process of getting it? And I'm just not there yet. And I don't know what that means, but
yeah, I mean, iPhones were very expensive in the beginning. iPads were very expensive in the beginning. Other non-i things were very expensive in the beginning. So far, our smart homes products seem often to be a little bit dumb. Is it easier to control our Internet of Things with our voice or with our touchscreen? What if we could do both? The new Brilliant Control is smart enough to do both. It's a touchscreen wall switch that lets you control lights, music, and it has Amazon Alexa capabilities built in. It works with all the big names in home automation: Nest, Sonos, Philips Hue, Ring, SmartThings, Wink Bulbs, Honeywell, even some security systems. I want it. It's not coming out until this summer, and it's only $150. I think it's $150 if you pre-order now. Afterwards, it'll be $200 and only available in the U.S. for now as well. But I like this idea. I'm really, smart home is something that I want, and it's just one of those projects that I'm going to do. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like I'm looking on Pinterest and feeling bad about myself. I'm going to do it.
And continuously adding to it. I think one thing that's positive about smart home that I'm realizing now that I have the Google Home is how component based it is. Like if I really want to add another light bulb to my smart home, like I'm out $40, $50, but that incrementally I'm increasing more and more capabilities to my home. But when I got the Google Home, I remember we talked about at some point a virtual assistant that would also potentially have a screen. Maybe Amazon's working on it and it's unannounced or whatever. Yeah. And I remember balking at it at the time, like, no, that's not how you control your smart home. You do it with your voice or whatever. But I realized after having Google Home that it would be nice to have the option. And if it's an appliance that's on the wall in the same way that maybe your thermostat is for your home, and to have that always accessible as another option would be really nice. This actually looks really cool, and they've got the kind of some sliders for your lights that work with it as well. I don't know, pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you find this or other people who are in big families. I find that the Amazon Echo is very disruptive. Like if we have 5 people in our family, there's a lot of talking. If I want to tell her to turn the music down, turn it up, ask her something, it's loud and disruptive. Like with the lights on, and imagine like every time you wanted to turn your lights off and on, you had to just interrupt whoever was talking.
Right.
And I mean, if you think I talk a lot, the rest of people in my family talk just as much. So it would be nice to have a touch screen and be able to have that. Otherwise, you're just always shouting at a thing, and that's not great.
Yeah. And I mean, some people would say, well, you've got your phone, and I'm sure that controls things as well. Sometimes you don't want to use your phone either. I don't know. I feel like there's room for all of these different options. Sometimes I don't want to have to pull out my phone, or maybe my phone's charging upstairs.
Right. Yeah.
I'd rather control it on the wall.
Yeah. The phone is in the other room.
Yeah. And finally, another Samsung battery fire story, but this one is a little bit different, I promise. Samsung SDI, which is Samsung's sister company that supplied one of the 2 batteries that were the cause of the Note 7 battery faults last year, actually reported a minor fire broke out at its waste facility that handles, what else? It's faulty batteries. Thankfully, there were no casualties, no injuries. Impact to the facility is minimal, but this is just another one of those situations where I'm sure Samsung could go the rest of its existence and never see the word fire and be very happy about it.
I know. So this was allegedly a factory that supplied batteries for the Note 7, but were these actually faulty Note 7 batteries, or Note 7 batteries that they had made that they couldn't sell? Like, is that where they all went to this place that
battery
caught fire?
Graveyard to be explodified?
Yeah, I know. And it said they burned some half-finished products, and I'm just wondering what those were. Like, is that the Galaxy S8? Is it?
I doubt it.
Note
I doubt
8?
that at this point. Maybe the Note 8, because they're probably still working on things. I'm probably not, though. Who knows? We don't really know a whole lot about exactly what it affected. Just that, man, Samsung cannot get far enough away from the word fire, and that's just too bad.
Right. After the break, find out why ride sharing might be the new waitressing. But first, let's take a minute to thank Blue Apron, the sponsor of this episode. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone while supporting a more sustainable food system, setting the highest standards for ingredients, and building a community of home chefs. Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with fresh, high-quality ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals for less than $10 per person. Every meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe card and pre-portioned ingredients that can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. And yes, you can use those recipe cards. Again, I often do. Blue Apron sets the highest quality standards for their community of over 150 local farms, fisheries, and ranchers across the United States. Seafood is sourced sustainably under standards developed in partnership with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch. Beef, chicken, and pork come from responsibly raised animals. Produce is sourced from farms that practice regenerative farming. Because Blue Apron ships the exact amount of each ingredient required for the recipe, they're reducing food waste for all of us. Their freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they will make it right. Blue Apron delivers to 99% of the continental U.S. There's no weekly commitment, so you get deliveries only when you want them. Customize your recipes every week based on your dietary preferences and choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or you can just let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you'll never get bored. Cashew chicken stir fry, how does that sound, with tango mandarins and jasmine rice? Or roasted pork with apple, walnut, and farro salad? or crispy barramundi with quinoa and roasted carrot salad, udon noodles with miso, and some soft-boiled eggs. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/TNT. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. Don't wait. Go to blueapron.com/TNT. And we thank Blue Apron for their support of Tech News Today. These days, everybody needs a side hustle, and who among us hasn't created their side hustle while still getting paid by their regular employer? Alyssa Bereznak from The Ringer says there is a growing trend of drivers for ride-hailing services taking advantage of their captive audiences to start their side hustle. Welcome back to the show, Alyssa.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the main subject of your piece, Jonathan Guarino.
Yeah, he has a really interesting story. He didn't have much luck with a startup he founded, and he needed some extra cash and decided to start driving for Uber. And while he was doing that, he kind of realized he wanted to forward his career in content management. Before his previous startup had to do with managing YouTube stars and things like that. So he decided to start filming karaoke shoots with his drivers or with his passengers, and then cutting them into highly produced videos and putting them online. They ended up going viral, and he got a lot of attention for it. He ended up backstage at a Weeknd concert because the Weeknd saw, him performing one of his songs, and he got some attention. He was able to kind of create his own side gig, and basically it was a way for him to bring himself out of this Uber job that he didn't necessarily like very much.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you haven't seen the video, you definitely check it out. I don't know why it makes me so joyful to watch people in an Uber singing to the Weeknd. But
and then when you're done watching it, you have the song stuck in your head on repeat, which is where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
so,
and you
great.
can't feel your
Thanks.
face. So, okay, so a lot of us started out, wanting to be writers or actors, and we waited tables for a long time, or, waited tables or did other jobs similar to that. And I can't imagine that when I was a hostess at Chili's that they would have been very happy with me videotaping me, bringing, people to their table. How does Uber feel about people making money like this?
Well, I think in the case of Jonathan Guarino, they were really happy about it. It's great for their brand. And speaking with the Uber PR person, she had no problem with it whatsoever. That being said, also, Chili's employed you, I'm sure.
They did.
Technically, Uber drivers and Lyft drivers are still contractors. So the car is their property, and they're technically, service people for this larger driving company. And this is a hot topic of conversation among anyone covering this area. And so I think there's a little bit of gray room there where they can sort of do something for themselves while they're also making money through this contractor company.
What about the liability aspect? Like, obviously, they're not employees, they're contractors, but they're still working on behalf of a company, in this case Uber, to carry around, to ride around passengers and stuff like that. Like, I've seen videos of Uber drivers that are literally like using a screen to DJ while they're driving, and they're like scratching and stuff. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily, you were told all the time, don't touch your phone while you're driving. This is kind of a distracted, depending on what they're doing, very distracting for the driver. Is there anything around liability around that for Uber?
It doesn't seem to be of a concern to them. I mean, while Uber is really proud of the drivers who sing for their passengers or like to karaoke for their passengers, they might be less proud of the people that I've heard from plenty of my colleagues and people I talked to for this story, who, try and sell them insurance plans or involve them in pyramid schemes. I mean, I had a Juno driver who once offered to be my life coach. So, I don't think there's much they can do to control it. And I'm sure that there's somebody somewhere who's gotten screwed over by a weird business plan from their rideshare driver. But so far there haven't been any lawsuits about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's, you take the good and you take the bad. They're not really liable. They do separate themselves because they are contract employees.
Those are the facts of life, of course.
Yeah. Exactly. So you talk about how they're taking advantage of their captive customers, much like parents take advantage of their captive audience while driving their children to school. And how do they keep from annoying their customers? How do they like I annoy my children? How do they keep from annoying their customers and not losing them, not getting bad reviews because they're asking them to participate in their YouTube videos?
That is definitely a topic of that they need to be really careful about breaching. So each of these sort of side hustlers has come up with their own way of introducing their side hustle. And typically it has to do with starting a conversation, engaging the attitude of a person through the beginning of that conversation. So I'm an angry New Yorker. I don't like to speak to anyone when I'm in a car. I just was weaned on cabs. That's what I learned. But some people are really open to having a conversation with their Uber driver. So if one guy I spoke to said that he would typically ask how the person was and then say, I'm doing great. I'm trying to, make my dreams come true. And typically a passenger, it kind of falls into that trap, right? And even if, they don't see it as a trap, they might not see it as a trap, but they'll say, what kind of dreams are you trying to make come true? And then that's when the Uber driver will introduce their song or their karaoke jam, or in one case, there was a farmer who was selling tomatoes out of the back of his car.
Yeah, if you think about, you're driving to all these different places, you might as well do more than one thing besides driving people. If sell them your tomatoes.
Yeah, tomatoes. There are probably things that you probably shouldn't sell them out of the back of your car as well. So
maybe. Okay. So, Uber's been in the news a lot lately, in the political news, kind of on both sides, riding both sides. People, were angry at them, and now they are paying for drivers who are in other countries because of the immigrant ban. How has that affected these people who have relied on Uber for their presence on YouTube?
So in the case of Jonathan Garano, who we were speaking about earlier, probably the most famous singing Uber driver and side hustler of them all, he actually denounced the company in a very public Facebook post. And that might benefit him because he gets a little bit of attention from that, and that, kind of draws in an audience and maybe alerts them that, hey, he's no longer the singing Uber driver. He's the singing Lyft driver now, or he's the singing Juno driver now. And for the most part, I think that people need these jobs in addition to their creative pursuits. And while Jonathan decided that his principles sort of didn't align with those of Uber's and that whole drama, the other drivers are still going for it, and they're sticking to it. The name of Uber itself is an incredibly helpful sort of tool in promoting their own side hustle.
Well, it's interesting because, I'm guessing that for the most part, you can make more money driving Uber than you can on YouTube. We've heard of, when we really look at people, there's very famous YouTube stars that also have waiter or waitressing jobs. I know there was a story about a year ago where I read where this woman got recognized and her table waiting job all the time because people knew her from YouTube, but she was still having to wait tables. So I guess it's good that there are ride hailing companies to help make more money than you can make on YouTube. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us. Alyssa Bereznak is a staff writer at The Ringer and is Alyssa Bereznak on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Take care.
All right, we got some feedback. Joey writes in to say, I'm a police officer who works with mobile forensics and so often hear about things from you guys first and then get informational emails from various government entities. So thank you. I have to say that lately I've been worn down by the politics that have been involved in the show. I understand that President Trump is controversial and that people feel really strongly one way or the other, but you guys are usually so good at giving me facts and bringing on experts that present historical points of view that I'm let down. My brother and I listen every day and both have commented on how it's upsetting to see a lot of opinion flying around. Making assumptions seems to be based on opinion and not on science, which is where the heart of technology, that is to say, that of exploration and innovation, lives. Very good point. I think we struggle, or at least we challenge ourselves on this because, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, very recently when we've talked about these topics, it's hard to know where where to draw that line, because there are so many stories that are super important to many of the companies that we talk about regularly. A lot of the Silicon Valley companies are so involved, yes, with the products that they create and the technology that they create and everything, but there's also the business aspect that we cover on the show. And there's a lot of things that are happening right now. That blurry line between the business side and politics and technology and how it all interplays. Sometimes it's really hard to know where to draw that line.
It really is. And I had a back and forth with Joey from this email, and I really appreciated how specific he was, because, I mean, if you're angry at something we're saying, by all means, tweet at me. I met Megan Maroney. I want to hear from you in any way, but a lot of it is just like, no more politics. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, but he was very specific, and I agree with him. And it was good to be challenged in that way. I do make assumptions. We say a lot of words on this show, and a lot of things I say are not as thought out as they can be, and they are assumptions. They're not science. And I understand that really what we are talking about. We have a lot of opinion, but really this is a show about technology, and as it relates to politics, we'll talk about that, but I will do better at just making assumptions based on my opinions.
Yeah, I think it's just a very good reminder for us that when it comes to the show itself, it is first and foremost about technology. And hopefully, if we're doing our job right, we're presenting those facts and the aspects of these stories to you so that you can make up your own mind. In the best case scenario, that's what we're doing. So excellent reminder, and we really appreciate that feedback. Up next, Renee Ritchie, the infamous Renee Ritchie, joins us from iMore to discuss Apple's new Apple TV hire. But before we talk about that, let's take a minute to thank Tracker. They are the sponsor of this episode. We're all used to losing our possessions. Some of us don't like to admit it, but it's true. I know you lose your stuff too. Newsweek reports the average American wastes 55 minutes a day looking for things they own but can't find. Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past. I'm going to tell you how to get one for free. The Tracker Bravo locates misplaced keys, wallets, luggage, instruments, bicycles, electronic devices, even pets in seconds, and that's only scratching the surface. Really, you can put it on anything you like. It's up to you. The coin-sized device is constructed with anodized aluminum for the thinnest, most durable tracking. You can easily attach it to pretty much anything. It comes with a key loop as well as adhesive for attaching it wherever you like. Tracker is enabled by Bluetooth LE, and that basically means that the battery is going to last up to a full year. It's very battery efficient with that technology. You can add a laser engraved message to each Tracker Bravo, kind of customize it for yourself, things like return information or pet information. You can also personalize your tracker with a custom printed image, say your company logo, or really just use your imagination. You can put anything on there. Pair Tracker to your iOS or Android device, and you can find its precise location with a tap of a button. That's really all there is to it. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at one time, and you can customize two-way separation alerts so you'll be notified before you leave your item behind. If you happen to lose your phone, you just press the button on the tracker. There's a little button on the tracker. You press it, it chirps at you, and your phone's going to ring even if it's left on silent. With over 3.5 million devices shipped, Tracker has the largest crowd GPS network in the world. So your lost item is going to show up on a map, even if it's miles away. If you lose your item, the Tracker app records its last known location on a map, the last time it was with you and you got separated. And then when another Tracker user comes within a 100-foot range of your item, you'll then receive a GPS update of where your item is located at this point. Go to thetracker.com right now and never lose your possessions again. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you're going to get a free Tracker Bravo with your order. Nice. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT to get your free Tracker Bravo today. All right, Apple is aiming at improving its Apple TV once again, and joining us to discuss some moves that are happening behind the scenes is Renee Ritchie from iMore, and of course, Twit's Mac Break Weekly. How's it going, Renee?
Really good, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to get you back on. Really appreciate you taking the time today. So first, tell us a little bit about Apple's new hire. Is Timothy D. Twerdahl. Is the D necessary? Because that D was everywhere. And second, how has his experience led to him being at Apple?
I don't know. Today, especially, I'm not going to go anywhere near the letter D. So I think we'll just call him Tim Turtle and and move on quickly with it. But so he has a really good background when it comes to just this sort of stuff. He was at Netflix prior to this. He was at Roku prior to this. Most recently, he was heading up Amazon's Fire TV service. So he's coming to Apple with a bunch of industry experiences and across a nice range of platforms that all sort of had a different angle on this business.
So, how would you characterize that, kind of the progress of Apple TV leading up to this hire? Where does it stand right now? I know Apple kind of gave it a refresh not too long ago. Has that been a success, or has there been room for improvement where that's concerned?
So, I mean, the problem with Apple is that anything compared to the iPhone doesn't look great by by that comparison.
Fair enough.
And Apple TV, it didn't have the blockbuster quarter that some of Apple's other products did, but it also had no hardware update last year. So it's sort of where the Mac desktops were or where the iPads were. It just didn't really get much attention. So it wasn't up the way that Apple Watch was or iPhone was or Mac was for that matter. But Apple is they went from it being a hobby where it was really a dedicated if you ignore the first generation model, it was really a dedicated streaming box. And now they've gotten apps on it. So as of 2 years ago, you can now have this tvOS based on iOS, and there's an app store and an SDK, and developers can make almost any app they want to and deploy it the same way they do for iPhone or for iPad. So that really opened it up. But it took a long time for that to get here. And I think there was a lot of internal debate over what do they make? Do they make a DVR box? Do they make an app store? Do they work in partnership deals? And sort of the golden opportunity for them was to get this cable deal where they would be able to offer a video service very similar to Apple Music, where you could just get a la carte cable channels. But the TV industry basically said, no, not going to happen. We saw what happened to music. We're not giving up control. And you also have all these regional fiefdoms. If we think cell companies are bad, almost every state or territory, never mind country, has their own little fiefdom of cable companies that viciously control their content channels. And that's really hard to penetrate.
So CNBC quoted a shareholder, an Apple shareholder, saying that Apple TV is worse than cable, which, that's a sick burn shareholder. Do you agree? Because, I mean, like you said, like you said, there's really, it's a hard industry. There's nothing else. It's like I would get something else if I could, but there isn't. But do you agree that it's worse than cable?
I mean, cable is horrible. I don't think my cable box has been updated since I had a Palm Trio, and we've seen where smartphones have come since then. It's not an industry that really favors innovation. It really favors lock-in, and there's no incentive for them to make better technologies. And we saw how hard it was for TiVo. It had a bit of a foothold in the U.S., but other countries, they don't respect cable car, they don't respect broadcast flag, and it's really hard to offer any alternative. I cut the cable cord 4 or 5 years ago, and I just use an Apple TV now, and I watch Netflix, and I watch some of the other streaming channels, and I buy a few shows on iTunes, and I'm fine. But for most people, they want their live TV, they want their live sports, they want to be able to watch the local news, and there's really no solution for that yet.
Do you not watch anything on Amazon Prime?
So Amazon Prime just arrived in Canada, and I have signed up for it, but they don't make an Apple TV app. So like an animal, I'm forced to have it on my iPhone and then project it to my television.
Yeah.
But I do.
In my animal cage, I have to switch over to my Roku just to watch Amazon Prime. It's horrible.
At least you have an option. But yeah, Amazon doesn't necessarily make that very easy for anyone either.
No, and if you look at it again, it's the thing is that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And again, solving this problem is hard because even if you make a deal with Comcast, that's only one part of one country, and it doesn't. Apple Music rolled out to 100 countries on the first day, and doing that for television is almost an impossible task.
So does a hire like this, obviously is coming from Amazon. Amazon's got the Amazon Fire Stick and, kind of other efforts. Amazon's done really great with hardware. Some would say in a very surprising turn of events. Amazon's got a pretty strong showing in hardware in a few ways, and Fire TV, Fire Stick, that's one of them. Do you think this is kind of an example of Apple kind of admitting that it can learn something from Amazon in the process?
I think it's actually bigger than that. I think Apple has grown incredibly as a company. They went from basically just making the Mac and then making the Mac and the iPod to now having all these different products, up to and including the just newly launched AirPods. And they haven't really grown their executive team. So you have Phil Schiller and Eddie Q and all these people with much bigger portfolios than they ever had before. And I think we started to see that when Phil Schiller was given the App Store. At the same time, Greg Joswiak was given he used to be iPhone marketing, but now has a much wider purview. And Pete Dysted was brought in to run Apple TV, and now he's going to go work with Eddie Q on doing all these content deals. And Tim Tortell is going to take over doing the Apple TV product marketing. And that it's sort of like I made this joke where they have so much on their plate, the Apple senior vice presidents, that they have not seen their plates in a decade. And that just gets really difficult to maintain. So when you get really competent people like this, it sort of helps eliminate that burden and lets everybody just work better in their industry.
What about original content? How important is some of that? Because we know Apple's working on original content right now. How important do you think that's going to be to kind of the evolution of Apple TV going forward?
If you listen to Jimmy Iovine, titled Jimmy at Apple, he thinks that it's a cultural thing, that you've got to differentiate. You do that by sort of offering a product that makes people excited. And that's really true. But when you look at something like Apple Music, it's the same model as Netflix, the same model as Amazon Prime Video. You have to create compelling event-driven moments when people want to subscribe and then keep them subscribed. When you maintain a customer is much cheaper than acquiring a customer. So if they can have something really dynamic, like their version of House of Cards or Man in the Castle, or something like Game of Thrones, and that gets people to subscribe to Apple Music. And then when you have a sequence of these things, like maybe carpool karaoke is just a tip of that iceberg, I hope, but you have a series of these things, and it gets you new customers, and then it keeps those new customers.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of really great content coming from these companies right now, and I have to imagine Apple, with all of its resources, will be right up there as in terms of quality. I just wonder how much of that content they're going to churn out, because every time I open Netflix, it's like 5 new Netflix shows appear.
What is it, like 1,000 new hours or something?
It's craziness. But the quality is high, and so as a subscriber, as a user of that service, you come to expect and value it at a higher level. And I think when you're talking, and Amazon's doing a lot of that now as well with its original content, definitely behind Netflix in that regard, but still, just recognized for an Oscar, I think, for one of their original movies. So Apple comes into this having a lot to prove in that regard, and I think what we've realized now is that services like these almost require this. Like, it's obviously a formula that works as long as the content is supported.
Yeah, and their advantage, and it's an advantage that Netflix managed to overcome. There's some companies that just have so much revenue that they can add things like Apple Music, or they can add things like streaming video, and it doesn't have to affect their bottom line. If you only we've seen those other music companies, the margins are so razor thin that if anything goes wrong, they're at risk of bankruptcy, or they're at risk of going out of business. And that's why I think you see companies like Google and companies like Amazon and companies like Apple getting into this, because even if they just break even, they make so much money in their other businesses that it's not hard for them. And kudos to Netflix for being able to make a self-sustaining business of just streaming these days.
Yeah.
So the new Apple TV app, which is just called Apple TV, which is very confusing because when you say Apple TV, you think of the TV or you think of the box. But the new Apple TV app does not include Netflix. So again, you have to be like an animal and get it from the main Netflix app. Now, do you know, or can you guess why that was? Like, was that Netflix saying we don't want to be on your app because I don't know, because we want people to just use our app, or was it Apple saying we don't want Netflix on our app?
No, there's layers of this. So, for example, people just say, I'm going to go to iTunes and get that song. I'm going to go to Apple Music, or I'm going to go to Spotify and get that song. And the branding and the company disappears. No one thinks Warner Music, and no one thinks, of the different, like Sony Music. They just don't think of those things anymore. And that, I think, is part of what scares the video companies so much, that if they become part of the service, right now they're very happy. I've got to go to Ultraviolet to get this, and I've got to go to Crave or to whatever service, Hulu, to get this or that program, or to Netflix. It's a Netflix original. And I don't think they want to have their brand subsumed where you just go to TV.app and there's everything you want. So Netflix is very cognizant of, they want to be the masters of their own destiny. And then at the extreme, Amazon won't even make an app for Apple TV yet because they don't want to give Apple part of their subscriber revenue, which Apple does in their rev share agreement. So you have the entire spectrum of really want to be part of something bigger than myself because I benefit from your marketing and your user base, to I'll have an app, but I won't be part of your app, to I'm just not going anywhere near your product.
Yeah. Fascinating. Renee Ritchie with imore.com, also Mac Break Weekly, and, a whole lot more. Really appreciate you taking time out today to talk to us, Renee. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, and welcome back to iPhone, Megan.
Oh, thank you. I was so glad to see that you worked out today. Did you see that I worked out today as well?
I did. I got the alert. It was like everything was right in the universe again.
I know.
You guys are connected.
We are, yeah.
Through the watch.
Yeah, and we were dead to each other for a month. It was, exactly.
And Jason didn't fill the void. We tried.
You did? Well, he didn't. Yeah, he doesn't.
I didn't even know about that aspect. I didn't even pay attention to that aspect.
He's not competitive, and he needs no one to pressure him to work out. He does work out just because, and I don't really understand that at all.
Sorry, I'm getting all buff suddenly.
Do it.
Appreciate it, Renee. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
TNT's fan of the day is the Fat Vegan Chef on Twitter, who sent us his picture watching TNT on Twit, and it looks a little bit different somehow.
How does it look different? Oh, wait a minute. That's not TNT.
No, that's all about Android,
But
which
there we
you
are.
can watch. That was the finale. We now are back, as we said.
Oh, yeah. We never actually did the here.
Yes.
Here, give me the iPhone real quick. No one saw this. And now we hand over devices officially. There you go.
Yes.
Okay. We didn't actually do that yesterday. We probably should have. But hey, what do you know? My accounts are all synced on here. That's so weird.
It was that easy to switch back. Record a video of yourself, please, or take a picture. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. If you want to connect with me on Allo, I'm up for that. I don't know. I miss the Google Assistant a little bit, so I'm trying Allo for a little bit. So you can use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT on the social medias. We'll find your photo.
And by the way, twit.to/twitswitch. There's a compilation. It redirects to a YouTube playlist of all of our segments talking about the Switch. So if you want to get like a compiled list of everything that we talked about, I think most of it's there. I think some of the cut downs are a little bit shorter than they are in the full episode.
Whoa. But
if you go there, there's a bunch of clips that you can watch and get our opinion from beginning to end, basically, if you haven't had it enough already.
The New York Times is trying anything they can to lure millennials into paying them for content. Find out what they're trying now. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, the sponsor of this episode. If you are in the market for a new home, you probably already know how your comfort with technology can help you get ahead. You can find houses online. You can compare prices. You can use the internet in so many ways, but you might not know how, if you're a geek, you can do most of the mortgage process online. You don't have to talk to people. I know you don't want to. With Rocket Mortgage, you'll get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. Don't waste time searching through stacks of paperwork. With Rocket Mortgage, you can securely share your financial information to get a mortgage approval in minutes. You can adjust the rate and the length of your loan in real time to make sure that you get the mortgage solution that's exactly right for you. Whether you're buying a house or refinancing your existing mortgage, you can lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. I'm telling you, skip the bank, skip the waiting, and go completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Use the TNT. Tell them we sent you. They are an equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. The New York Times really wants you to start paying to read it. They've tried all manner of ways to get you to do this. Nothing seems to work as well as they'd like it to. But would you subscribe if they also gave you free Spotify? Well, for only $5 a week, you get all the online news that's fit to digitally print and a free subscription to Spotify Premium, which would normally cost you $120 a year. The deal also comes with 2 New York Times free subscriptions that you can share with anyone, just like your Netflix password. Really don't share your Netflix password. That's not legal. This is legal to share, but twice. So
Spotify Premium is normally $120 per year. Mm-hmm. New York Times Digital is, I guess they're saying $5 per week.
It's normally $6.50 a week or something.
And right now they're doing $5 a week, so that's $260 a year. So if you're already a paying Spotify Premium member, then kind of consider it Spotify's unchanged, and Digital New York Times, that's $2.70 per week if you kind of figure it out that way. I don't know. Different way of thinking of the numbers.
$2.75
per week for the Digital New York Times. Yeah, if you're already used to paying every year for Spotify or whatever.
Right.
Just another way to think about the numbers,
so you get your David Brooks and your Beyonce for $2.25.
The way it should be.
Right. I would like to see the Venn diagram of David Brooks fans and Beyonce fans, where that would meet.
I don't even know who Dave Brooks is.
David Brooks is a New York Times columnist.
Oh, okay.
I'm not the biggest fan of David Brooks.
I wonder if
Beyonce is. He's a little stodgy. He's like the anti-Beyonce.
Oh, okay. All right. So the Venn diagram probably is very big. Yeah, all about bringing in younger readers. Not a bad plan to do that if I do say so myself. Actually, I think I was listening to the local NPR station. They were doing their fundraising drive or whatever, and they also had a New York Times. Like if you gave $15 a month, I think, to the radio station, then the New York Times digital subscription was free. So obviously, New York Times is making some deals to get people on board right now because, they need to bring people in.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not a fan of the New York Times, do support the journalists that you are a fan of, because I think it's important that writers should get paid.
Absolutely. That's it for this show. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC at twit.tv/live. Be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. And you can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
And you can find all the ways to subscribe to our show. Our subscription is free. You will not get free Spotify with it, but it is free. Go to twit.tv/TNT to subscribe. And if you want to see us in person, please come see us. We love to have a live audience. Email to get tickets. Email tickets@twit.tv. And if you want to tweet at me, I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to Brian, our technical director. Thanks to Burke, our studio helper / prompter scroller / occasional thumbs upper. And thanks to Kevin for editing the show. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.